Welcome to My Big Safety Challenge, a podcast all about stories of safety leadership, presented by Dale Carnegie and the Board of Certified Safety Professionals.
Jay, great opportunity today of somebody that you know.
Yep, I'm very excited to introduce to you our Global Program Director, Crum. She works in Xylem, and she's a resident of Morgantown, West Virginia, and one of the great people on my staff that we wanted to hear from today. So, Autumn, welcome.
How did you get involved and intrigued by the world of safety?
I love hearing people's responses to this because it's usually not, I always wanted to be a safety director or safety manager since I was a little kid. I like that you just don't hear that.
No.
So they're all quite unique, unique stories. I had originally thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. Or really into like the sports line of physical therapy. And when I was in high school, I had the opportunity to do what's called a mentorship, which is basically an unpaid internship at a physical therapy office here locally. And I hated every second of it.
Why?
I don't think there was a single part that I enjoyed or found fulfilling. I did not want to go, and I'm not the type that just, wants to quit any of that. So this was for a class, and at the semester, the teacher asked how it was going, and I told her that I was not a fan, and she asked what I wanted to do, and none of the hobbies that I enjoyed did I feel like were a career path, and so I was kind of stumped. And she suggested that I talk with her husband, who was an EHS director at West Virginia University, which I'm from Morgantown. So that's the university that's here locally. And he was an EHS director there. They had, had a couple of people that had gone there and liked it. And I decided to take her up on the opportunity. And I loved it. The very first day, loved it.
Well, what did you love about it the first day? What captured you?
The part's a little morbid. It's not morbid. There's nothing really bad that happened, but there was a lab accident where someone had spilled chemical on themselves. And so we had to go and respond. They were in the safety shower, making sure they got it all off of them. And then we had to investigate and talk with the students that had been in the class. So it was that was really nice. And then also doing training. So I got to sit in on some different training. So you got the classroom style, you're out in the field, you're also behind a desk. Something that just really kept my attention. It was nothing that was ever going to be the same thing every day. And I really liked that about it. So I was fortunate that there were graduate students and student workers there. And so I asked them, how do I get to do this? And so they helped with that educational background. But that's really how it got started for me.
So it sounds like you had a combination that first day of some intensity. There was an accident that took place. Y'all had to go take care of it. Had to do some detective work to try to understand what had happened. So you got to do some exploration of things. And then along the way, you just found this opportunity to communicate to people too, through the idea of training and development. So in the world of safety and that profession, you get to do all those kind of things.
That's exactly it.
So, all right. So we didn't plan to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it. Now, when you get into to safety, people are doing a lot of different things. Like you said, no day is ever the same. I'd like to know a couple of things now as you've been in doing this work for a while. What are one or two things you say, man, that really fits who I am? Let's start with that.
My personality, I like to achieve things. I like to see results. And so things that I get to see that on, like we've done a lot of the ROSPA, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents Awards. It's based in the UK. And helping our teams put together their applications, seeing that starting point, and then helping them remember all of the good things that they have done that year And you can see the progression. You can physically see it in their face when they start remembering. And then seeing their applications morph. So getting to see that beginning where it's kind of rough and they're having difficulties. And then in the end, when they really get to have that, aha, I really did great things. Another one is we've done what are known as Kaizen events or Kaizen blitzes, and just really quick improvements. And when we've done those at sites, that was probably one of my favorite things that I've gotten to do, because you walk into a site, you can see the problems, you pick 2 areas, you work with the teams, you work with the people who are actually performing the work, and you get their input. Like, they're the experts, they're the ones that are really leading it. And at this point, we're just hands and bodies to help make it come to life, the improvements that they're wanting to see, and getting to really see that polished look at the end. And you're working up a sweat, you're dirty, you're filthy, and you have just been able to come together with a great team and accomplish something, in a quick amount of time. Those are 2 key pieces for me.
Yes. Well, as you know, I work with the Dale Carnegie organization. And so I'm going to interject a few principles that I just heard you put into practice. First of all, the idea is begin with honest, sincere appreciation. And when you talked about how you were helping your team to realize the different things they were doing and they were accomplishing, and you saw the response to it, I think so many times we forget how meaningful that is to individuals when we acknowledge specific things they've done. And then when you talk about those Kaizen events, you were putting another principle into practice of be a good listener. Encourage other people to talk about themselves. And that's what you were doing with those folks that were out there on the front lines doing the work and trying to learn from them and hear from them and let them come up with it. Do you suppose it's easy for folks at times, safety professionals, to forget that the people there are really, they're in the know of what's going on? Is that a trap that's easy to fall into?
I think it definitely is. I don't think that's something that we were ever really taught. That's the right way to do things. And it's sometimes retraining yourself. And so you can always fall back into that loop of just getting it done. I think sometimes as a safety professional, you have so many things on your plate, you just want to get it done. And so it takes some time to go and talk with people, and but it's invaluable. There's getting it done and getting it done right and sustainable. When you start including people, it gets a lot more sustainable when they feel like they've had a voice, their voice was heard, moving on.
Well, even another principle is let the other person do a great deal of the talking. So many times I think we as safety professionals, Jay, we think we just got to be the ones giving out all the directives, giving out all the information. And then when finally we realize, let those people talk, let's hear what they have to say, it will be that much more meaningful to them.
The preparation to walk into this field involves a lot of theoretical risk and training and compliance training. And so, Autumn, maybe you can take us through the progression of your career, because I would say this: in the first 10 years of my career, compliance. We got to do it because OSHA says so. Next 10 years of my career, hey, there's a little bit more to this than compliance, because the best people and the best teams I've been around, they focus on people. Maybe we should look into leadership. And by the 3rd decade in this business, it's all about leadership to me. So maybe you can take us through how you kind of rose up in the field and what your experiences have been in the EHS space.
Yeah. Starting out, again, I was at university. I was there for 6-7 years. And it's really, again, like compliance based, and you're doing the things that you have to do and the things that are really already established. And then from there, working in a federal government environment, again, still very compliance based. We're putting together procedures, we're putting together manuals, and we're doing the things and looking at ISO requirements for, safety and environmental, and making sure we're in compliance with that. Oil and gas, same deal. That was where there started to be a change for me, and that was after maybe 10 years close to in the field. That was really only 4 after I graduated from college. But that was where I started seeing the communication piece. I just stood and observed for a long time because I was out of my element in oil and gas. I knew nothing. And I don't like to speak about things that I don't know about. So my first order was to learn. And in learning, you have to talk to people to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how it all comes together. And that led itself into building a relationship with the people out in the field that I would go and see, a couple times a week. And building that relationship allowed them to become more comfortable with me working in a hospital type environment and moving on to manufacturing. You start getting into more depth in the discussions with people and truly getting them to buy in more. You're having a lot more conversations with people and understanding why they do what they do. And, you don't argue with them. You don't try and force them because it's never going to work. As soon as you turn your back, they're going to go do whatever it is that they want to do. If they don't understand why, they don't, maybe respect it. So getting them to understand and whether they agree with it or not, realize that that's what they should be doing.
Now, I'm just curious too, because you went oil and gas, so you didn't know anything. How scary was that for you to leap into a different field, not knowing anything about it?
I don't think it was scary. It was fascinating. I love learning. I love learning a lot. So it wasn't so scary. It was just a huge change for me. It was the hardest job I think I've ever had, and I learned the most from it, though.
Now that's interesting because that's an interesting mindset. Because there are people, Autumn, that look at something and say, I don't know, and I'm kind of scared and I don't want to look bad and all. But you didn't see it that way. And I would encourage all of our listeners to realize the mindset that we take toward problems or situations. Now, Dale Carnegie said in his book about how to stop worrying and start living, he said, when life gives you lemons, he said, turn into lemonade. And that's really has to do with the mindset that we had. And so for all of us, if we'll go from, oh, I'm scared or I don't know, to, hey, let's go after this. There's something here. Let's learn it. It's fascinating. Makes all the difference in the world. How did you come to this conclusion, though, to take time to talk to these people and build relationships? That had to be, that's a challenge that not everybody overcomes.
Well, I can usually just make friends with a wall. So I very much adapt to my environment. And, growing up, I always have been a very hands-on person. So kind of being in that environment, I was good. Talking with them, being honest, being genuine. I wasn't trying to be authoritative. Just being honest with why I'm there, why the questions that I'm asking. There's no ulterior motive. And I feel like that was a big thing getting them to understand because they were very hesitant at first. I remember standing there watching and a guy's like, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, I don't know. What are you doing wrong? And it, leads into a conversation and building that with them. And I realized that worked and getting their trust and their buy-in and forming that relationship, which makes everything easier down the road. And I took that learning with me to, my next job and the one after that and the one after that. And just you build on it and you keep learning. And if you pay attention enough, whether you always agree with someone or how they do things, you'll learn a lot either in what you want to do or add on to those things that worked. So for me, I know that communicating with people works. But then also, things that I pulled in after that is making sure you're listening and taking action and following up with them. And then adding on to that is getting more opinions of different people when you're trying to change something and including that. So, just really building on all those good pieces as you go on.
Jay, I just heard another Carnegie principle in action there. And it's the principle that goes, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. And so many times we get caught in this trap that, well, I got a viewpoint. But Autumn, it seemed like you were humble enough to say, I'd like to hear it from their viewpoint, to hear what they're seeing, what they have to say. Now, we're talking about, in safety, we're talking about dealing with human beings. And I think we kind of forget that sometimes, that they are humans.
Very easy to do. It's very easy to do when you're in a system and you're in a management system of rules, guidelines, procedures, protocols, audits, inspections, compliance initiatives, non-compliance initiatives, open items, and so on. The administrative system, if you're not careful as an EHS professional, can bury you in work to the point where you forget humanity.
Again, what I said earlier, it's easy to get lost. It's easy to get caught up in all the things you have to do.
So what I believe we just heard you say, which I think is a wonderful point everybody needs to remember, is that you learned that people were responders to how you were. You did not go in authoritatively. You did not go in like the big boss person, but you went in, can we say, humble, respectful, with an openness to listen.
And a smile. I mean, if you know Autumn, you'll know that she's usually smiling at people when she's working with them. It's a humbling, seek first to understand before being understood approach with grace, dignity, and humor and laughter, really.
And I think just sometimes in the busyness, how many times have you all ever talked to safety professionals who said in frustration, they won't listen to me. I can't get them to do what I want. You run across that very often with peers that you talk to?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's easy to feel that way. I mean, I've had those moments even just recently. And we had spoken about it a couple of weeks ago, but I took 2 different influential courses here recently because I felt like I wasn't influential. And it wasn't until one of them was also one of the Dale Carnegie influential leadership courses. But I felt like I wasn't influential, and it didn't click until putting into action some of the things that I learned and also talking with a mentor that I am influential. That is not the problem. It is communication. Sometimes if you're not communicating clearly, people don't understand their role or what is expected of them or why they need to do something. So if you're leaving part of that out, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for, which may make you feel like you're not influential. When you actually are, you're just not communicating clearly.
What I think is interesting but challenging to all of us that hear what you say is, for some reason, most of us are convinced, oh, I'm doing a good job of communicating. The problem is with them. But in reality, it sounds like you might see that differently. What did you have to learn? Was there something specifically you learned in that communication that you could help some other people with? Because there's people right now that are listening to this, this is like dialing in to where they're at right now. Maybe you could give any specifics you could give us that could help us.
So this is a specific example that happened to me. I was leading a project with 5 other people who were voluntold to help put together a promotional activity. And my thought was, okay, they're going to, participate, they're going to do these actions. And at the end of the day, they didn't. And I'm talking with my mentor about this. And I need to figure out how to be more influential. She's like, you can't do these things and not be influential. So either you're not doing these things or you are influential. And what helped me with that is when you're starting a project or you're working with people, and they can either be your direct reports or not. These people are not my direct reports that I'm working with. And so I have to be able to influence people that don't work for me. I can't say, I'm going to put you on a performance plan, or I'm going to take away your bonus, or I have nothing to do with any of those things, nor do I think I would do that anyways. But when you're starting something out, clearly communicate your goal and your expectations to the group that you're working with, and then get their input. This is my expectations. Can we agree that this is our goal? And, then just start asking questions, put together the framework and get their input on either what they would like to work on, where do they see this direction going. And then at the end, and this part is critical, and I have a coworker who I always gave a hard time to for about 2 years until I realized how beneficial it really is. Making sure everyone understands at the end of a discussion what the next steps are. Does everyone understand what we just discussed by, asking feedback, different mechanisms to ensure they understood? And then confirm, okay, this is what you're going to do next. Jay, you're taking this item and you're going to bring it back next week. And Merle, you're taking this one and we're going to talk about it in 2 weeks. And, just really bringing those things around. But starting off with the expectation is huge. And if you're just starting out and you're taking a new job and you're talking to your team, setting out those expectations so that they know what you're about, or a project that you're leading.
Autumn, sometimes we skip over that, and for some reason we forget to do that. And it's almost like we think, well, they'll know because I know in my head, right? And so then we wonder why they can't do what we haven't told them to do, even though we thought in our head.
That's a huge learning point for me. I like to be efficient, and I like to try and get things done. So there are parts where I didn't understand the value in taking the time to set the expectations and communicate those, and also catch myself if I'm skipping my thought process. So sometimes, I'll state something. I'm like, wait, I forgot to bring you on the ride with me. This is how I got here.
Which implies another principle. You didn't realize you were doing all these Dale Carnegie principles, did you? That it's principle 12 that says, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. So when you said, yeah, I thought I had you on the ride, but wait a minute, I better get you back. That showed you were humble enough to approach it. And Jay, how important is that?
It's important, but I'd like to expand upon what Autumn mentioned with regards to a mentor, and how important that is in EHS. So I'm not it. I am not her mentor. Obviously, I'm her direct report. But Autumn, take us through why you think a mentor is important and why.
I think a good mentor is very important. You also need, so I state it that way because I've had one that did not align with what I wanted in a mentor at all. And so finding the right one for you, I think, is critical, and being able to communicate and talk with them. But having one, I had one for 6 months and accomplished more and really defined a vision on where I want to go in 6 months, something I hadn't been able to accomplish in years of trying to think about it. So it's really someone to help challenge you. I mean, she didn't give me any big secrets or any major pieces. It was just that a different way of thinking about things. Sometimes we get so stuck in our vision of how things are supposed to go that it's great to bounce those ideas off of people in those discussions and get different ways of doing them to accomplish them. Because I was holding myself back for a while, thinking it was going to be too much. I wasn't ready. It was going to take too much time. I don't know where to start. And, in a matter of months, I made leaps and bounds, something that I don't know if I would have been able to come up with otherwise, and definitely not in that amount of time.
If let me just follow that up a little bit. If you were coming out of your undergrad at West Virginia U, do you wish you would have had a mentor like that sooner, or was that not even in your purview at that point in time in your life and your career? Like, the reason I ask is because I think probably 4 to 5 years after I started in this business, I started to wonder, like, I should probably have a mentor in here. I could use a little bit of help. So what do you think about that?
I think you need a mentor at every stage. You just need different ones depending on where you're at in your career. Like when you're just starting out, you probably need someone close to you that can help guide you and not make critical errors. And I think I was fortunate whenever I was in oil and gas, my boss at the time, he wasn't my mentor, but he really helped watch over me. He was someone that I could go to and talk with. But he also helped shield me when I would make a mistake, when I didn't report something correctly or I didn't take something down accurately. He took all of the blame on that and then helped coach me, after. But I've had some different coaching, some light mentoring, up until the last year, and it is very helpful. It's something I wish I would have done sooner or taken more seriously earlier in my career. But while I didn't officially have mentors, a lot of my colleagues now, I still, consider mentors or coaches that I go to with different things, different ideas, different problems, and really value what they have to say. They're all very smart. They all think very differently. So I think using those resources.
And now, these are such good comments because this is something we haven't dealt with much. This idea of having a mentor, and I told you though, Jay, about that gentleman that owned the trucking company that I worked for that taught me so much, and he would tell me, he'd say, you have to be smart enough to know when you're not smart enough, and sometimes that's what keeps us back. I was thinking somebody just out of college, you think, I got together. And you got to be smart enough to know you don't know. Now, I am curious, though, how you found these mentors. Because I've conducted mentor programs before where we specifically put people together, or did you kind of look for somebody and say, I think that would be the one? How does somebody find a mentor to help them?
There are a lot of different options depending on what organization you work for, where you're at physically or in your career. I know that the ASSP has the WISE, women specifically, has the WISE Women Mentoring option. The organization that I work for currently, Xylem, has different mentoring groups that you can join or people that you can reach out to for that opportunity. They also work with a third party. That is actually what I did, as I took the third party option and was assigned to someone. Another time there was someone I was reporting to. I am a very open person with anything personally, but with work-wise and professional-wise, I keep everything very, very close. And it wasn't until the last few months that I started opening up professional-wise as to what I'm looking for. Like I want to do more engagements. I want to write a paper. I want to, go do these things. And as I'm and I am not hiding it from anyone. I'm talking with someone from HR and I tell her, yeah, this is what I've been working on. This is, what I'm doing. And she's like, I've got a great opportunity for you. Same thing with mentoring. If you're looking for a mentor, you start talking to people, different people, and odds are there's someone out there's someone that knows, or they'll hear something soon and they'll let you know. So kind of using those around you to find that. But there are a lot of options out there.
And what I find interesting, that's like that old statement, when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. And when your inner being and your person says, I want guidance, I want some help, that somehow you were attracted to that right person through connections or however you want to look at. And I think that's real important, Jay, and then you can add on to it, that sometimes you had these ways of thinking, Autumn, that all of us do. We think, oh, this is right, or this got limits. But you almost need that person you can speak out loud to, and they can say, what about this? For some reason, we as human beings need that. And we're talking about now developing our safety people, like you're a developing and growing stage. What else would you add to that, Jay?
I would add that there's a big difference for everyone that's listening to this podcast between mentoring and coaching. You're going to go to that mentor and they're going to look to give you advice. They're going to look to give you the solution. They're going to say, just do it like that. Or they're going to say, this is my experience. That coach, completely different. That coach you're looking for is only going to ask you questions so you can solve the problem yourself. And if you marry those two principles together, you're looking for a mentor and you're looking for a coach, then you're going to be a complete EHS professional. And I think that's what you're hearing Autumn talk to you about today.
And I think that's 100% spot on. Using those around you as that coach, and they can help expound on the things that you're learning through the mentoring and, helping find. I think you need both of those things, because you do have a lot of the answers in yourself. You just need someone to help pull them out.
That's exactly right.
And it's not one of Carnegie's principles, but something we teach in our leadership courses. People support a world they help to create. So whether it's us as the safety professional, or whether it's like you mentioned earlier about working with your team and hearing from them, when people have a say and they help support it, then they're much more likely to make it happen. Wasn't that a great thing that boss did for you when you said he shielded you? When you made a mistake, he kind of stood up, took the hit, and that's good. That's good bossing right there. That's good leadership right there.
Yeah, I learned a lot, from him. Anything I did well, I got all the credit for. Anything I didn't do so well, he took the credit for. But it helped me and helped improve my communication skills as well, in learning. And I wasn't too afraid to make a mistake. I obviously didn't want to make an error or a mistake, but I wasn't so concerned that I was going to try and hide something or lie about it.
One of the things that we've seen through this podcast is how women are able to continue to rise in the ranks and do extremely well in the world of safety, which has tended to be a male-dominated area. What pieces of advice would you have for the women that are listening to this to encourage them to continue to advance their career? What's something you've learned that you've had to that's been helpful to you that you could pass on to them?
So many things. Yeah, we've already stated, but getting a mentor, having someone to talk to, is someone that's in the field or at a similar level that they don't necessarily have to be in safety, but it's definitely helpful. And prioritizing things. Know what you want and go after them. Don't sell yourself short. Don't accept things that don't align with who you are. Make your value known, and don't accept anything less. I've worked in environments that are male dominated anyways, and I've had really positive experiences. But there are times where you come across someone that doesn't believe women should be in the workforce, and typically they'll leave you alone, and not create too many problems. But just assessing your situations and going out. You don't need to argue or start problems where there aren't any. Listening and talking, and you're just moving forward. But for me, the biggest things are to not sell yourself short and know your value and don't accept anything less, because those things will come, things will work out, and you'll continue going in the right direction. With those, I think we're far too hard on ourselves, or we limit ourselves. So
The mental limitations that can come on create a challenge in themselves, and to have be able to have that breakthrough and go through those is very important. Daring, but important. Jay, what else would you like to ask? And then we're gonna come to some final conclusions here. What else do you want to add?
There's so much I'd like to ask, but it's really between us and probably our performance reviews together and our EHS. But no, I'm just kidding. No, what you're seeing here is a top-notch EHS professional doing great things for our organization. And what I would ask her, for the world to see is keep doing what you're doing and role modeling leadership and excellence so other women get into the field. What did you think of the Dale Carnegie course you took? Tell us about give us your review in the Rate Your Professor app, but publicly here. I don't know if Merle taught. I don't know if Merle taught you.
No,
But
I really liked it.
Wait, was this face to face or was it online?
No, online.
Okay.
Tell us about your experience with that course, because I think it's a fundamental course that all EHS professionals should take from my vantage point. What do you think?
I definitely agree. I felt like there were pieces that, I kind of know this, but I didn't fully understand the value or why. There are just some things I guess that you know, but fully understanding the benefit behind the pieces and how to talk with leadership and putting together presentations and actually doing them. I really learned a lot. I thought it was very beneficial, and I still use it almost every day as I'm putting something together or working on something. I think back to some of those pieces that I learned in the course, and it has definitely helped. But that is also where I realized clear communication.
Well, and for example, you probably remember some of these parts of that. We teach a one segment in particular called Making Your Ideas Clear. And that's where you have to explain how to do something. Almost always give 2-minute talks, so we learn to be concise and to the point. But just really learning in those people principles, as Jay and I have talked about, those 30 principles, Autumn, over half of them use the phrase, the other person, the other person, the other person. And that's what leadership really is. It's taking the focus off of us and focusing on that other person. And when we do that, then they respond in a right way. But when we don't do that, when we make it all about ourselves, and when we say, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, everybody in their head says, I don't care what you want. But when it's about them, it's a whole different ballgame. So I'm glad it was a good experience for you. If you could look to the people that are listening right now, and who knows what age they are, what level they are, doesn't make any difference, new to the profession, been around for a while, if you had one piece of advice from your heart, what is it that you'd say from your heart that you would challenge folks to do?
I would have to say to go out and talk with people, do more listening than talking, and you take action on that.
Well, Autumn, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your life experiences, because those stories and those experiences other people can relate to. And we're glad you got to be a part.
Thank you for having me. It was an excellent experience.
Autumn brought a perspective that has been different than several of the others that we've had. She really took time to focus on the benefit and her gain that she got from having a mentor. And that's certainly worth what everybody's heard, to consider that and to not just consider it, take action. What was ideas you had from her talk?
I think one, the mentorship was important, but also it's clear that Autumn has the internal drive to make her career better and work harder to get better and ask the questions of herself and others on how can I get better. And that clearly resonated from her mentorship. She's into coaching now. She wants to publish more papers, attend more conferences, and be a bigger part of an influence in the EHS community.
So don't sit back, folks. Go after it.
Thanks for listening to My Big Safety Challenge, a podcast produced in partnership by Dale Carnegie and BCSP, with your hosts, Dale Carnegie Master Trainer Merle Heckman and Jay Harf, Vice President of Global Environment, Health, Safety, and Sustainability at Xylem. Executive produced by Charlie Eltringham. The supervising producer is Joel Burgai. Directed by Jiachi Liu. Edited by Jared Griot and Kyla Anderson. Editorial support from Brandon Mohawk. Social media support from Braylon Morgan and Evelyn Baco. Consulting producers are Colin Brown and Mark Sullivan. To have new episodes delivered directly to you, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. If you would like to share your story of a safety leadership challenge you faced, email us at info@mybigsafetychallenge.com. See you next time.